So I'm ready. I'm here. Let's
All
start
right.
this.
Well,
Shoot the
you're
question.
ready. I'm ready. Chris is ready.
Yep.
Give you my
We're all
best
ready.
answers.
Although I feel like we should start with the Christmas decorations. I just got to go off the top.
Oh, I was
Yeah.
actually okay. Are we started? Should we jump right into
Yeah,
this?
Let's
yeah.
just jump right in. I'm sure everyone knows who you are, so you don't really need to introduce yourself. But I mean, we're here with Tony from the band Mest.
So yeah, so this interview was delayed once because of me having to deal with the city, which fortunately the city's actually being really cool to me, which is usually not the case. So I took our touring RV and I made it look like Cousin Eddie's RV for Christmas vacation. And I had it in my driveway, and they're always on our shit because you can't have RVs on the streets here, like crazy shit. And of course, there's RVs and trailers everywhere in the neighborhood, but we sort of have been under the watch, so to speak, because before a tour and after a tour, it's out there for a while we're unloading and doing shit and cleaning and stuff like that. Um, and so we had it. I parked it in the driveway, which it doesn't really fit in the driveway for the most part, but I made sure I was off of the sidewalk. And I hadn't started the decorations quite yet. That was the first thing before I started doing everything else that I was doing. Um, Mind you, like storing it would cost maybe 120 bucks for the month. Like that's what we normally pay. But I was like, it'd be rad if I just put it in the driveway and did like a full Christmas vacation style thing. So like I started doing all of the work to it, and it's I mean our touring RV is like old as shit anyways. Like runs great, inside's great, but like the outside's pretty fucking worn out. So I was like, this is perfect for Christmas vacation. I bought a mannequin. I bought the Cousin Eddie robe and hat. Like just did everything. Bought a Santa Claus that hangs off the rafters and put the jersey on it, the Griswold jersey on him. Bought the net lighting to put up. Like this photo I sent you guys wasn't even close to being done yet. So like I've done a lot more since then. But of course, I already had the 72-hour warning on it. That's what they give you. You get two of those a month. I was waiting for the dude to come back because I know him because I'm dealing with him, and he's a pretty nice dude. So talked to him about it, and when he came back the second time, he saw what I had done. So he's like, I get it. I already called my boss. I let him know like it's not just an RV in the driveway; that it's like the full Christmas vacation setup. And he's like, so I let him know that he's like, but it's still an RV. Like we're gonna have a hard time with this. So I'm like, all right. I'm like, is there anybody I can call? What can I do? Can I petition the neighborhood? Like, see who is against it, who likes it, And he's like, unfortunately not. He goes, but here's a number to call. It's a different department in the city. So called that number. I didn't call it, send an email to him. A long, like meaningful, heartfelt email explaining, like, hey, I put a lot of work into this, cost me a lot of money. Growing up, my father always did like like decorated our house inside and out with Christmas lights everywhere. Like, I'm like, so I'm trying to do the same thing for my kids. I got, five kids ranging from 11 months to 16 years old. Like, I'm trying to create the same memories, like to tell them the concept of it, not just like, hey, can you fucking turn your head, for a month and not give me tickets? So I'm like, this is going to work. I get an email the next morning and it's just like pretty much just a copy and paste code of the fucking no RVs type of shit. And I'm like, all right. And it said, if you have any questions or concerns, call me. So I called the dude, ran the same story to him. When I got him on the phone, he it sort of like humanized the situation, and he was actually being cool about it. And then he's like, well, he's like, I can't tell you what to do. He goes, but here's an idea. He goes, why don't you talk to Kevin, who's the guy that always comes over to the house? And he goes and try to get an extension. So we went through that. Kevin's like, I had to talk to Kevin for a while. He was trying to come up with some ideas. And then he was like, well, he's like, I can't really give you extensions because we've already done that in the past. He goes, but, and he starts telling me all these things. And he's like, this is what we check for. You have two 72-hour warnings a month. I'm not going to come back until I get a call again. I come back on Monday, make it be gone. I can close your case. Then you bring it back. We have to wait for somebody to call to start it again. And he's like, if I have to come back out, you get another 72-hour courtesy ticket. He goes, and just so you know, I don't tell this to anybody, but we take a photo. And if the wheels are turned, even if it's in the same spot, that shows that you moved it. So we have to give you another 70. He's like, I'm telling you all the things to beat the city pretty much, which was really fucking cool of him. Because the other thing I was going to do was call like ABC News in the local area and be like, hey, so somebody's a fucking Scrooge in the neighborhood and is ruining this. Because we've had like cars drive by. And if I'm ever outside, every car stops, yell quotes from the movie, like tell me how much they like it. So everybody loves the work that's put into it. It's the Christmas spirit. But evidently there's one fucking neighbor that is, still wants to fucking complain about it. So I'm hoping that when I bring it back next time, they'll recognize that the decorative piece and that it's not just an RV sitting in the neighborhood. So we'll see what happens. But that day I was like emailing and phone calls and, I'm fighting the good fight, so to speak, for Christmas. So we'll see how it turns out. I'll keep you guys updated. So I got to bring it back tonight and then reset it up and see what happens.
Oh gosh, that's ridiculous. They can't
Yeah,
just let you have it for a month.
I know. And I understand where they're coming from. That's why I'm like, what can I do to help you guys help me get through everything, like
Right.
find fucking loopholes. And my wife's just like, dude, it's so you to like have to like beat the system and do this. And I'm like, yeah, because I understand that there's laws, but at the same time, it's like, I'm not doing anything bad. I'm actually bringing joy to the fucking neighborhood and people love it. And like, so I don't know. We'll see. We'll see if the Scrooge wins or not.
The Scrooge. Hopefully not.
The Scrooge of
Nobody
East
likes
Bay.
the Scrooge.
Nobody likes the Scrooge, man. That's how it is. Or the Grinch. Well, the Grinch was just picked on. We all know that.
The Grinch didn't actually hate Christmas, though. He just had no friends.
Right. The Grinch was picked on. Just like I just saw the movie Wicked, and I'm like, I remember watching The Wizard of Oz as a kid. They got it all wrong. Everybody in Oz is a fucking asshole. They're all vindictive and stuff, and like the Wicked Witch of the West wasn't wicked. She was just treated like shit. So villains are made, not born.
It's true. This is true. So, getting into our first question then, after the amazing Christmas story.
I thought that was a question. No,
Well, I mean, it was sort of a question.
no, you guys
But our
cut that.
real first question,
Right.
we just want to talk about your newest record, Youth. Now, did you have any specific inspiration for it?
Um, I don't think you can really have like, unless you're one of those weird bands that's like, I'm gonna write a concept record and it's gonna be all about this movie or something like that along those lines. I don't really think a band like us could go with it like a concept. I think for me, it's always more about just writing songs that I don't know, like when I write songs, I always try to think about songs that I like and what songs last the test of time because the storyline or whatever it is constantly relatable from the age of fucking 15 to the age of 45. So that's consciously in my brain when I'm writing a song. And so when I started writing these songs, it was sort of like I have a different way of writing lyrics. Like I sort of just start coming up with lines and like sort of jotting shit down. And as I'm sort of writing, obviously it's one line goes into the next and you're sort of, and then I'm like, as I start writing, I'm like, what am I unconsciously fucking spewing out? Right. Like it's not really a thought about process until I'm sort of into it unconsciously, mentally. And so just writing these songs, it was like this sort of like, once I started writing, I was like, oh, okay, this is what I don't see a therapist. I'm sort of the therapist for all of my friends and family. I'm the one everybody dumps on. I don't ever dump on other people because I feel like I use their life situations to heal myself in a way. I remember like doing that in AA fucking 15 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And so as I'm writing stuff down is when I figure out what I'm writing about. And at one point, though, there was enough songs where I was sort of realizing what I was going through and what I was doing with the concept. And songs sort of became not a concept album, but they were unconsciously related, sort of one to the next in a way. And I've said this in other interviews, so I'm not trying to, I hate doing interviews where I'm saying the same answer. But with what happened with this record was where I was going to write it and the time traveled there, the neighborhoods I was driving through and the neighborhoods that a lot of it was written in, the studio that I was at with my buddy, was a neighborhood where I wrote a lot of like the earlier Mest stuff, like with Feldman from the Wasting Time, Destination Unknown, those records. So I really hadn't traveled through that neighborhood a lot in the past, or at least if I had, I wasn't doing it while going to make a record. So once that started happening, it sort of started tying in like 20 years ago, different stories, history, thinking about memories, stuff like that. And it just sort of became like a thing of like, when I was writing, when we were young, it was obviously about the early Warped Tour days and being in a band and what it's like, and so they somehow did become connected without it being a concept record, but it really was influenced just by, telling stories of the past and wanting to make it somewhat positive memories and stuff like, and in my brain sort of thinking, watching pop punk sort of had this had how many different fucking rises and falls pop punk over the years and different generations. but watching it come back up again and sort of thinking, where do I sit in this world of what did I contribute? Am I part of it? And the Mecca years as I saw them, but seeing it happen again and just sort of being grateful of it and, celebrating the past without it being, people always say it's the best times. Like there's a good quote from The Office where it's, what is it? I wish we were living in the best times, or whatever. I'm talking about the Andy quote that he
Yeah,
says.
the very last one. I wish we knew was the good times while we were still living in them.
Right.
Something
And
like
it's
that. Yeah.
like, I feel like for The Office, like that was such an amazing quote come out of it where I'm like that. I heard that and I'm like, fuck, dude, that is the best fucking quote ever, but sort of with that mentality and thinking like, it doesn't mean that life's over with. It just means it's a different chapter. It doesn't mean that those were the best times. You can still have new best times, and watching people my age and, that grew up in that scene sort of going to shows again and experiencing the music scene again and appreciating bands putting out music again and touring. And so it was all of that sort of into one for a lot of the songs. And then a lot of them were just like the shit that I'd gone through. Like, me and my son's mother separated, fucking 7 years ago or so. And so there was a little bit of storyline in that, not necessarily like completely just on that, but using bits of it to like tell stories in a way that might be relatable to other people. And I try to be a little vague with the shit that I write, because not that I'm scared to like be completely honest, but I feel like if you can word things in a vague way, people can become like people can have their own version of the song and can relate to it on completely different ways. Like I've seen people using our songs in memorials to, somebody who passed away too early with cancer, that was the father and stuff like that. And which I'm like, that song's not even about that. But now I see that post and these photos and I'm like, I totally understand why they did that, because that's how they're hearing the lyrics. And it fully makes sense to me. And I'm like, that's cool that people can do that and relate to songs differently if you're vague just enough that you can grab your own personal sort of story and put it to a different way. I'm sorry if that was the longest answer ever, and I don't know if
Oh, we've had
solid.
longer, I'm sure.
I don't know if I've given you a solid
No,
fucking answer either way, but
it's all good. As a matter of fact, you were mentioning kind of where you pulled some of the inspiration from within writing, but I'm kind of wondering if through the years, as your personal views, life views, or experiences over time has changed your creative process or your writing style at all.
um, yeah, for sure. I think more so now. Like I said, I've always been a big fan of storytelling and a big fan of like writing about your history and your old neighborhoods and old friends. I love those types of songs. Um, but being at the age I'm at now, like when I write songs, it's like there's a way bigger history and way more like not realness to it, but like, I don't know, it's just like I'm connected so much more to those songs that I write now, because it's, like when I listen to a song like Jaded, like I get it. Like when I was writing Jaded at the age of fucking 21 or 22, I was singing about when I was 16 or 17. So granted, I was singing about my past and stuff, or like Rooftops. That was the same thing. But when I write a song now, there's kids and family and death, and there's so much more involved in it that I definitely pay a lot more attention to the lyrics, and it means more to me for some reason. I don't know, because it's, I've lived a lot more life, I guess you would say. So that is one thing that I've consciously paid attention to, is the lyrical content. Like I want it to fucking mean something. Like you can come up with a different fucking million melodies, chords, all that same shit. You can regurgitate over and over again. But when you're trying to tell a story, I just want it to be like as honest and heartfelt as it could possibly be. So that's one thing that I definitely pay attention to more than when I was younger.
Yeah, and you mentioned, one of the things that have changed since is, kids being involved in everything. Has fatherhood impacted a lot of your writing?
Uh, yeah, for sure. Because it's like, you know, I'm not religious at all, but there's that Catholic guilt that you get embedded into your skull as a child and somehow sticks with you. It's like trying to survive a cult. Um, you like, dude, I have this like pattern of like beating myself up over like, am I a good enough father? Am I doing enough? Like it's constant. And if I ever bring it up to any of my friends, like, guys, it's been bothering me lately. Am I doing this right? Am I doing this wrong? And everybody's just like, you're a fucking idiot for even questioning it. Like you're one of the best fathers I've ever seen. Like, and it's great to hear that. Like it does help for like the smallest amount of time. And then I'm back in my head again going, I could do this better. I could do this more. Like, am I paying too much attention in this situation? Like, it's just fucking father. Like, you don't like. There's a good scene at the end of the movie Bad Moms where it's the moms and the actresses talking, and it's the really sweetest thing where like the moms all say like they're like practically in tears, like, I never thought I was doing enough, this, that. And the daughters are like, I had the best life. Like, what do you mean? Kids only know what they know. So if you're giving them the best that you can and doing the best that you can, like, and genuinely give a fuck, like your kid's going to have a good life. But it plays a role in it in that aspect of like, if I'm writing anything about relationships, sometimes it's people can take a song and relate it to something completely different. And it's my inner fucking beating myself up over like, am I morally being a good father? Am I doing everything right? Am I, like all those types of questions that you don't really ever stop asking yourself because, I think until your kid's like fucking 35 years old and established in life, you're like, did he succeed? Did I do right? Did I, where did I fuck up? Like questions like that. Like, I don't know. So it definitely, in relationships, I do write relationship songs and people think that sometimes they're about, a guy and a girl. And it's like, no, it's sort of about me and myself and my thoughts of like, what am I doing right? And what am I doing wrong? So definitely, for sure, it plays a part in lyrical writing.
I'm glad I'm not the only father that struggles with that internal battle.
Yeah, it's it's the worst. I fucking hate it.
Hey, I feel like if you guys are struggling with an internal battle like that, you must be doing something right. Because you care enough to actually think about that.
Right? Yeah. Who walks around going, "I'm the best dad ever. I'm doing everything fucking perfect." Like that's like, okay, no, you're not.
There's no way. No dad's ever perfect. No
Right.
mother's ever perfect.
Right. But you try. You do your best. That's all you can really do.
For sure, for sure. So I gotta know, how was it working with Bowling for Soup and Ice Nine Kills on some of the songs on the new record?
Um, so it's funny when you do stuff with your friends, uh, because it's not like this elaborate sort of like thought out process. Like I hate to dumb it down, but it really is like you're just friends with each other and fans of each other. Like me and Jared have known each other for over 2 decades. Um, we're really close outside of music too. Like, we still stay in contact all the time and it's family stuff. And, like if he's in town, I bring the whole family to see them. And, it's just one of those things. So it's just like, hey, dude, doing a new record. Do you want to write a song together? And he was busy at the time. And it was like schedules weren't working for that. But and then it was like, well, hey, do you want to sing on a song? He's like, yeah, absolutely. Of course. So it was like, hey, dude, here's this song I think you'd sound good on. There's the concept of like the way the song was sung fit really well for doing the back and forth sort of thing that Blink often does. So like we have two singers. And considering that we did grow up together in a sense in the musical scene, we were both starting out at the same time. We've played shows all over the world together. It made sense for him to be part of that song with us. And I was like, all right, well, here's this song. And he's like, yeah, it's rad. And he's like, what do you want me to sing? And I'm like, here's the lines, sing what you want to sing. Let me know like if this works. And then Spencer, same thing. I'm like, hey, do you want to sing on a Mest song? And he was like, fuck yeah, dude. Like Spencer loves Mest. Grew up listening to Mest. Actually has a tattoo on his neck, which is a date that was the Goldfinger Mest show. And he was like, I went to that concert, saw you guys, saw Goldfinger, was like, I want to be in a band. This is what I'm going to do. So I sang on their record like 5 years ago or some shit where he hit me up and it was the same thing. I'm like, yeah, dude, send it to me. Send me the lyrics. Let me hear it. If I can send it back to you. So it was the same thing. It was like I sent him the music and was like, I'm thinking for this part, this and that. And he's like, yeah, cool. And then it was like we shot the video for Hate You Sober. And we had shot it over, I think we did our shit in like a day. And then I had to get his parts and I was like, yo, I'm like, he was busy the day we were shooting. And where we were shooting our stuff didn't really make sense for what we needed him for anyways. And I was like, hey, I'm like, how can we get together? Let me know your schedule. I'm like, I'm free. So you just let me know. And the director happened to live closer to him anyways. And he's like, yeah, dude. He's like, here, cruise up to my house. Went to his house, set some shit up, recorded some shit for a couple hours, and it was done. Like it's just when you're working with your friends and there's not managers involved and labels involved, it's just so much. It's like literally just talking to a friend like, hey, dude, this would be cool, right? Like, so you love that type of shit because that's a big reminder of like the business and the industry can very easily get involved with bands. And then it's like the good ones show that they're still that person when you're doing this type of shit together. You don't have managers involved. You don't have like obviously towards the end of it, it's like, okay, if I'm like, yo, thank you for doing this. Here's 5% of publishing this and that. So like you send contracts to be like, here, thanks for doing it. But the most minimal contact is like that's their job. So here, do this for us. But Yeah, it's always cool to have friends do shit like that. Like and it's just cool to support each other. Like there's room for everybody in this business. And a lot of bands, I think, fight that concept. And I'm glad that like the friendships I've made with bands that have been successful, become successful, like stay true to that. Like makes me feel good that I'm like I'm friends with the good people in the business. Cause there's a lot of fucking terrible fucking dudes and bands, and I'm not gonna go into that, but
Yeah.
that's a whole it's a whole different podcast.
Yeah, I bet. I mean, I guess I feel like there's a lot more collaborations than there used to be. I think it's because technology's come so far that you don't really, have to get in a studio with someone to do it. Because a lot of people have their own little home studios nowadays too. So I love seeing all the collaborations everyone comes up with.
Yeah, I think that's definitely true. And I think a big part of that too is like back in the day, like I said, it was always bands like, I don't know, like worrying about like, well, if I associate with this band, what's the look going to be? Even if you're friends with the person, right? But like it's a different like Ice Nine Kills is nothing like Mest.
Mm-mm.
Mest is nothing like Ice Nine Kills. Then they Spencer did the thing with Real Big Fish, like polar fucking opposite bands, right? But it's sort of just become a thing where like I think musicians have sort of stepped up into realizing like music is music and like it's if you really give a shit about music and you love music, like why not do this with your friends? Why not have fun? Music's supposed to be fun. But I think people were concerned with that more back in the day. We always tended to like we had fucking Benji on songs. I sang on people's songs, like we did it early on in the days. And I think the other thing now too is like honestly, I think fucking managers and labels push it a lot more now. They're trying to use in a way like bands that they have on their labels to go, well, you're doing good, so I'm gonna get this dude to come sing on your song and let's cross promote. There's a lot of that shit going on, which cross promotion is great. I like it more when it's my friends
Right.
than somebody stepping in going, hey, let's do this because it'll be a cool look for you. Like I'm gonna do shit with my friends. Like I got enough friends in the music business. Like I'll pick and choose who sings on my records.
Yeah.
That
How
makes
just because you mentioned it, how did that feature with Benji come to be on Jaded? Because that's out of all, and I'm not just doing this to suck up or whatever the hell. It's one of my favorite features in pop punk. Uh,
yeah. Um, we were recording that record at the time, and we were always hanging out. And we happened, well, when he was living in LA. Was he fucking living in LA at that point? He was always out in LA. Either way, I don't know what they were recording or doing at the time, but we were just hanging out, and it was like I'd be writing songs, and we actually sat together and like I'm like, I got this song, I got this part. This part I don't got anything for yet, and we just sing some shit together, write some shit together, and it was just the same thing. Like we're sort of like friends, fucking sitting together, having fun, writing music. Um, and then it was like, okay, cool, let's do this. It's super simple, like just easy. Sing on the record. Let's do friends being musicians together. Like that's it.
Yeah. Speaking of records, you guys have released many albums over the years. Are there any songs on those albums you would go back and rearrange at all?
Ah, it's if you were to ask me that like after we had them fully demoed for a while and we went in the studio and we were rearranging them, I would probably say yeah. But I feel like most of the songs took a positive progression when in the studio with John because John was very hands-on with producing. So like he'd be like, "We got to change this part, do that." There was a lot of back and forth with me and him back in the day, and it was always it was creative tension is how I'd put it, but it was always good. Like at the end of the day, like he'd be like, "Yeah, this turned out great. Glad we did this," and I would say the same thing. Like whoever fought, there was if you fought for it harder and it turned out good, it was like the other person's like, "Okay, I'm glad we did that." Um, like I listened to the song "Photographs" on the record, "Photographs," and it was cool. I do like the way that it turned out because it was definitely a departure from what we, for the majority of what our songs are. But it was like we were trying to, experiment a little bit more on that record. Anyways, it was our fucking fourth record on a major label, our fifth record as a band. So there's definitely nothing wrong with like being like, all right, let's be a little bit more creative, a little bit out of our box if it makes sense and it vibes with the song. But I remember there was an old demo for Photographs, which was definitely more of like a pop punk version of it. I feel like a lot of bands were like, all right, there's a cool four on the floor, 16 note hi hat thing we could do in this part. Like the Killers came out and did that and had this massive song. And I was like, well, how could I incorporate this? Like bands tend to fucking do that or producers. Um, but I don't know. Like I think for the most part, like I like everything the way that it turned out. Like there's nothing crazy where I'm like, no, we fucked up on this song or we could have did this better. Like I genuinely think that when you put enough fucking work into your songs and you're working on your own songs by yourself for a long time and doing as much as you can. Then when you go in the studio and everybody else starts fucking throwing their 2 cents in, that the song will turn out the best it could possibly be. So there's nothing really that that I think I would go back and change, to be honest.
I've been finding that a lot of people, well, the few people that we've asked that question, a lot of them seem quite content with what they've done in the past recently. Kind of like, okay, I'm encapsulating what it was like for me in that era, and why would I kind of want to go back?
Right.
But sometimes it's interesting to hear some of the things people have picked out.
I think it'd
Uh,
be fun to go back and just fuck around with some songs just to see what you would, just to change it, to see like different octaves, different leads, a little bit of melody change here and there would be fun to do. But at the same time, like you said, it's like it sort of holds a time and a place. And like that's what you were doing. And then you progress on and do different things and like,
Yeah. Would you
stuck
make
in
any
that.
songs acoustic versions?
Just in general, you mean?
Yeah, in
I
general.
mean, well, I've done that a lot. I did Broken Down and then Broken Down 2, which is all Mess songs just fucking redone. And even
Right.
those are the ones where when I go back and listen to those acoustically that I sort of did, like in my own little home studio, just fucking around. Like I go back and I'm like, fuck, I could do this or I could do this here. Like, because you're taking something that's already done and it is what it is, and you're creating something new out of it. So that's where you really don't have to worry about the creative process. You can do whatever the fuck you want. That's the point of doing it
Right.
differently. So I listen to those acoustic records and I'm like, fuck, there's so many songs that I would like completely change that I could have did because I sort of stayed rooted to the the general idea of the song. I didn't fuck around too much. It was more just playing them acoustic with adding some strings and maybe a little bit of string melody that's different than the normal melody, stuff like that. But I'm like, man, it'd be fun to go back in and like really just fucking demolish these songs and like completely makes where you would know it's the song, but completely just make it more about it aesthetically sounding different.
Yeah.
so I'm kind of curious, what do you feel went different for Mest around 2001 with the release of Destination of Unknown? Because at that point you're reaching around, I think it was like 12 on the USC, and then subsequently the Mest one actually hit the Billboard Top 200. What do you feel went differently during that time for you guys to suddenly gain so much momentum?
Um, God, looking back, I didn't realize any of it back then, to be honest. Like, you just don't. I'm in the moment of going, since I was fucking 15 years old and decided I was going to be in a band and I was going to make this work. And my dad was like, when I got kicked out of high school, and he's like, well, what are you going to do? And I was like, I'm going to play music. And he's like, well, if you're going to play music, then fucking play music, like do it. It was never like, oh, you got to have a plan B type of shit. So I always just had it ingrained in me that like I can make this work. I know I can. So as like the stages went on, like obviously we were touring or not touring, but we were a band for 4 years before we got our first deal, and I was young as fuck, and we had to do a bunch of touring after that to build momentum because our first record completely failed according to major label standards. Most bands don't get a second chance. We put out Destination Unknown. When we put out Destination Unknown, um, which we had to submit demos again for Destination Unknown to see if the label wanted to fucking, if they heard enough good songs in a small batch to then go, okay, yeah, we'll pay for the rest of the record. So it wasn't like we were still battling, and like from the outside looking in, it's like, oh, okay, they did this record, they're doing this tour. Like it looks like we're just going along, but behind the scenes, there was like, this may never fucking happen. This may be our last chance with them, so to speak. So then when we put out Destination Unknown, the way that Best Buy and Target and Sam Goody and all those stores would buy records was based on your sales of your last record. They didn't give a fuck about your touring. They didn't know your touring numbers. They didn't know what you were doing behind the scenes, right? So they see 30,000 records sold and they're like, Destination Unknown's not going to sell it all. So they don't order a bunch. So they're not available in stores. And that's just the way it is, which is never a good sign for a label. Then they get negative thinking on the record. But before Destination Unknown came out, we had already booked our first headlining tour because we had toured consistently for about 2 years, opening up for a bunch of bands. And it was to the point where they're like, well, you need a headline now. And I'm like, how the fuck are we going to headline? We're not there yet. I didn't feel that we were there. I didn't. And then all of a sudden, we're headlining places, and we're selling out 500 to 1,500 seaters on 30,000 records sold. And that's when that's when the label sort of realized, okay, we got to stay with this because they're doing something right. We just got to figure out a way to move more records on a major label consistency standard. And so when I remember when Destination Unknown came out, we were on tour, and all of a sudden we started getting phone calls from our managers and people at labels, and they're like, "Hey, your shit's selling out everywhere." They put in reorders on the first day, which is like unheard of. You know, they usually know within a week or so because they didn't order enough because they were underselling us because they saw the last amount, you know, sold. That was always so. It was always small wins for us, you know, like hearing the label call up and be like, "This is great that it's happening." My manager letting me know like this is really good, and like telling us like we were number 12 on the hot secret of a fuck chart that was. I don't even know what that is, but I remember hearing it. I just don't know what it is. I still don't know to this day, or like how you classified into that. And then with the third record coming out, we were on Warped Tour and we were headlining one of the main stage where we were one of the bigger bands. We were on the headlining stage, the two main stage. So when that record came out and we knew our numbers for our first week and second week, like things were really good. But even with that, that was like a huge thing. Like I think we had like 64 or something like that on top Billboard, something like that, which was massive for a band like us, right? Because we didn't really have radio play, we didn't have MTV, nothing like that. It was great, but then at the same time, it's like you're not getting radio play. You hear all the internal stuff that the label's worried about, even though Warped Tour is going great. We have a massive tour after Warped Tour lined up with Good Charlotte, who were massive at the time. Like, and they were like, literally, no joke, like we were 9 months into that record being out. And they were like, let's go do another record. And I'm like, what do you mean? I'm like, we released Jaded. That was it. Like it sort of made TRL here and there. And it was on MTV2 Rock Countdown for a while. And I'm like, we were at, I don't know, 300,000 scanned or some shit. Like, and I'm like, well, let's keep pushing this record. Why are we jumping off of this ship already? And it was like, no. We just, and for them, this is when I realized like the new year was coming, which means new budgets. So they wanted to throw us into the new budget as opposed to there's no money left over for this year for any of our bands. And I remember going into label, we actually had a meeting with everybody. We had everybody that had worked with our band from different labels, independent labels, to our booking agent, John Feldman. Everybody was in there, managers. And I was trying to push, like, why don't we do another video for like Rooftops or something? Let's push that. Even if we do a cheap budget video and promote it, the more work we do now, the more records we're going to sell on the next record. So let's put more money now instead of just fucking, especially because I'm like 9 months and I'm like, I can't write another record already. Like, what the fuck are you guys, like, they don't get it. They're business people. They don't get the concept of songwriting. And I remember that was sort of when I realized, like, this is still a business no matter what. Like, they tend to figure out, that it's just numbers to them. Like, that's what it was. I'm still grateful for the label because they, helped me. I'm 44 and I'm still playing music. But yeah, man, like you don't really realize it back then when you're younger. Like I look at it now and I'm like, oh, fuck, we were doing some cool shit. But I think I appreciate it more now than I did back then, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, speaking of Warped Tour days, in the early 2000s when pop punk was just completely taking over, how was it things for Mest when that was happening?
I mean, that was anything I could have thought of or dreamed of as a kid starting this musical fucking venture was happening and was the coolest thing because you're on Warped Tour, you're playing like pretty much the 4:30 slot every day, which is like one of the best slots you can get, despite my back being fucked up and like being out of my mind on pain medication and playing shows in wheelchairs and on couches and in and out of the hospital 4 times. Besides that, it was the greatest thing ever. We had became friends with the guys from Rancid, which was like a childhood fucking hero band for us. They fully backed that record. I remember being in Atlanta, they were on a radio station and they were able to play 3 songs and they picked The Clash, their newest single, and one of our songs. And he was like, yeah, man, 3 generations of punk rock, and like, that's like the most honorary stamp of punk rock, the badge of honor you could ever wear. Like, no matter what anybody said about our band, I was like, dude, like, what do you mean? Rancid just played our song as one of the 3 songs they got to pick. Like, no matter what you say at this point. But yeah, to like be living that dream of everything. I went to Warped Tour from the second year it was on, started on. It was great, man. And I also think, and obviously this is a biased opinion, undoubtedly, but I do feel like 2003 was the best Warped Tour ever. I just do. If you look at the bands, you look what came out of it. There was some older bands that I grew up listening to, the newer bands coming up. There was just something about 2003 that, like, I just had a little bit of The Used was on it, which was, became this, they were the start of like sort of that screamo, sort of emo thing, in my opinion. So yeah, to be a part of that, which I consider history, was fucking great, because I do feel like Warped Tour over those next couple of years, as music sort of changed and didn't know what it was, like Warped Tour started changing, and it was like just became sort of this different thing that it was
Yeah.
from 96 to 2005 is sort of where it sort of stopped, in my opinion. That's just my opinion.
2003 was one of my favorite years because that was the first year I went.
Oh shit.
So,
Nice.
and that was also because Story of the Year was their first year they played.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like there was like Story of the Year wasn't a pop punk band. They were definitely influenced by that stuff, but they were doing sort of their
Right.
own thing. That was going into that different sort of version where there's, like I said, there's categories and genres and eras of pop punk, and it was sort of, a little bit of everything all into one.
Yeah. But I would agree that like for me like '03 to maybe '07-ish were like my favorite Warped Tour years.
Who was on '07? I
Oh,
fucking
I
forgot
don't
to
even remember. I
remember. I
just
was like,
remember
I
those
think
years. I feel like that time frame was real good for me.
wasn't '07 the year they had Katy Perry?
I don't know. I
I
don't care
think it's
about Katy
I think it
Perry.
was.
no, that makes sense. With like 303 and shit, right? Like that
Yeah.
one.
Yeah, I think Katy Perry hadn't even put out her record yet.
Yeah.
But
You know
speaking
what I just saw? I just saw between the Katy Perry. I just saw, I don't know this old clip. I swear, I think it was POD, and they were on some like late night talk show playing whatever. Like I don't know if it was fucking Letterman or one of those shows, but it was POD. And for some reason, Katy Perry's standing on stage, like singing with the band. I don't know if she did a feature on the record or something, but it was really fucking weird. I'm like, that's Katy Perry, and like nobody knows about that. It's very weird.
a
But
while ago, there was a video of I think it was Kelly Clarkson at a metal show.
sounds right.
I thought that was wild. But anyway, speaking of Warped Tour 2003, I'm gonna go back to that. Um, uh, there was a story told on the Warped Tour 2003 DVD where a kid was hit with a bag of shit. Do you think he ever went to a Warped Tour again?
So he said he was never gonna go. Um, and what's fucking crazy about that story? I sort of love that they posted it or like put it in the video because it's awesome. It was years later, and I don't know if I was on tour, where I was at, if I was at a show, like I can't remember, but some girl comes up to me and she goes, "Remember that story that you told on Warped Tour DVD, whatever, just that?" And I'm like, "Yeah." She goes, "By the way," she goes, "that was my ex-boyfriend." And I'm like, "That's insane." And I'm like, "Sorry," I'm like, whatever, like laughing about it and shit. And she's like, "No, it's fine. He was a piece of shit, so he deserved it." And I was like, "Okay." So I don't know. I mean, dude, that shit was
At least you know it
ridiculous.
was justified now.
Her, yeah, she was probably stoked. So
Oh, that's funny. So
yeah.
I think it was 2005 Chicago Warped Tour. I swear I remember being out in the parking lot because they used to keep some of the buses out there. And if my memory is correct, I saw you rolling around in your Cadillac.
Yep. I was that '05.
I think it was '05.
Yeah. Yeah, I lived like fucking 2 blocks from there. Like
Yeah.
literally. So I was like, fuck it, let's go to Warped Tour. I fucking had to drive all of 2 minutes to get there. And yeah, that was a fun night. We did so much drugs that night. Uh, that was like I remember No Effects. It was a weird thing too, because you do like your heroes too, like in punk rock bands like that. And I remember we just me and my buddy Aaron talk about this all the time. It was the crazy night. We were sitting in the back of the bus with, I'm not gonna say everybody, but it was friends back there, and it was just like people just partying, having it just back when you could be young and do drugs.
Yeah.
You could handle it.
I just
And
remember it being so very messed of you to be just rolling in your Cadillac.
that was my fucking car. That was my summer car. I mean, when winter came, that shit would not survive. But
Well, no.
so I had a shitty little like truck. I don't know. But yeah, it was
Midwest
summertime.
winters. Midwest
Yeah,
winters.
that car would not
Do you
work.
still have the car?
No, when I moved out to California in like '06, I think, I bought a different Cadillac to move out here, a normal one, not a fucking classic. Um,
Aw.
and so it stayed at my parents' house for I don't know, a year or so. And then I realized like there's no parking in LA as is for me to have 2 cars. And it was just sort of sitting there, and I was just like, "Oh, man's like, what do you want to do with it?" And at some point I was like, I'm like, I should probably just fucking get rid of it. I'm bummed I sold it. But I remember like some dude flew over from like fucking Switzerland or some shit. He owned like a snowboarding company of some sort. And so he had that type of money. So this motherfucker flew over and shipped it back. So I'll never see it again. Obviously, it's in another country at this
Yeah.
point. But Yeah, I wish I would still have it, but
Would you
again, it
ever
wouldn't.
would you ever get another one?
Um, if I had money to piss away, maybe. But at this point, like I sold my other Cadillac, that was like an SRX, uh, to get the Kia Telluride because when you got 7 passengers, you have to buy the parents. You have to be the responsible one and buy the fucking parent car so you can bring everybody to Disneyland. So
Yeah.
that's where I'm
You
at
have to adult and be a parent.
for sure, for sure. Although a lot of them would probably fit in the trunk. That trunk was fucking huge. I could just stuff the kids in the trunk and cruise around for
Oh
sure.
yeah. Oh yeah. Cadillacs had huge trunks. There was a lot of classic vehicles that had huge trunks back then. It makes you wonder what they were doing with those trunks.
There's the mobsters. They needed that fucking trunk
Yep.
space.
They
A
needed that
lot.
trunk space. Is that why they had big trunks back then?
Sure. That's why I fucking
That's
ship them out
totally
to
why.
Vegas.
My 14-year-old won't even ride in the bed of my truck halfway around the block for me to bring him to his friend's house.
Really, I did that all the time. We used to go down the road at like 25 miles an hour in the back of my dad's
Yeah,
truck.
no, he won't. He won't ride
We
halfway around the block.
your fucking friend's dad had a pickup truck that was a 2-seater. You sat in the back of the fucking truck, and they just drove you around. Like that was just how it was. I know.
And you didn't get in trouble from the cops.
I know that's weird too. Like they were just like finally one day they were like, wait a minute, this isn't fucking safe. We shouldn't this. Casualty rate went down, I'm
I'm
sure.
trying to think when that became a thing, like when they were all like, "Oh yeah, this isn't safe." Because I
Oh,
swear, I drove in the back of that, rode in the back of the truck for a long time.
for sure. There's that funny like meme, and that's like a video meme where it shows the people that are like, I just don't want the government getting involved in my life, and it's like because they want to drink and drive and shit. And it was like that's when like the people that are like, oh, the government's coming to get me. There was like those people back then, and they were like talking about drinking and driving. And like when they started enforcing that, you can look up the statistics. It was such a drastic amount of people not dead in car accidents when they. So it's like some things just do make sense to have laws to stick by.
That's true. That's true. I mean, we did do a lot of things back in the day that we wouldn't do anymore, like drinking
Oh,
from a garden hose.
for sure. I mean, I'm surprised. Me and my friends talk about it all the time. I don't know how we're all still alive. Like my immediate friends, plenty of acquaintances and friends outside of friends that fucking did not make it. But I remember driving down. There was just like back fucking highway road where when you sort of got away from our neighborhoods, and we were fucking doing like 70 miles an hour. And me and my brother and my cousin Chrissy was driving. Me and my brother Matt, my cousin Matt and my brother Steve crawled out of the fucking window. It was like a little like fucking Honda sort of Civic fucking thing. Crawled out of the window onto the top of the car. And then my brother crawls up, and then I'm the last one out crawling up. And I remember crawling up and fucking my foot slipping and falling off. And I grabbed onto them. And we're doing 70 miles an hour. And I'm like still laughing about it, get back up because I didn't fall and kill myself. And we're all three of us on top of the car, just holding on to each other, like stupid shit, man. That I would like think about. Like, I hope my kid never does 1/4 of the dumb shit that I did growing up.
Yep. Somehow we all survived
I know
doing
it's crazy.
stupid stuff.
It's crazy.
Now, I'm sure this may have been asked once or twice over the years, but maybe it hasn't. I don't know. I've always wanted to know, where did the hand motions come from? Like, where'd the choreography come from? What's the dealio?
I don't even like talking about that song. It's such a horseshit song. It was from the movie. What's the fucking porn star movie with Marky Mark?
Okay. Because I always
That was
wondered, I never really looked into it, and I just wanted to know.
that was his dance move when he got in
Okay.
roller skates.
So now I know. Now I
Yeah,
know.
where we stole it from.
We don't have to talk about it anymore.
Yeah, thank you.
How many people have you had stage dive at Mest shows?
How many kids?
Kids,
How many
sorry,
kids?
kids.
Oh, okay, I was gonna say. I mean, you're doing some math there. I mean, fuck, dude. We had on that one tour where we made it a thing every night. I mean, there was one night where there was like 10, which was something that wasn't supposed to happen. Like it was just they just I think I wasn't paying attention or something, and so they kept just fucking stacking them up on stage. And then like by the time I was like done talking to one of the kids, I was like, fuck, and I was like, well, we're still gonna do this. But it's just one of those things. On that Bowling for Soup tour, it became part of the show. Like we had a timeline, we had a sort of our show set into place of these songs. Stop talking to this. We did it one night and it just worked well, so it formed into the next night. And so we figured it out structure wise. So it was like, and it was a great part of the show too, because it would just get people stoked. Like it was, and we knew there was always going to be kids there because these people are our age, like, and I mean, we still do it when it feels right, when it's consistent of like, okay, this is gonna be a fun time to do it to get everybody into it. But I mean, I would say fucking, maybe 75 to 100 at this point.
Dang. Starting them
You know,
early.
yeah, it's those core memories, man.
It is. I don't have any type of memories like that because I was like into Paula Abdul and all that back in the day when I was
That is
younger. So
fucking Paula Abdul for sure. No crowd surfing.
nope. I just have a core memory from being like 10 years old at my first concert and it was Paula Abdul and the security guard kept yelling at me because there was a pole in my way. And so I kept standing in the stair area.
Oh yeah.
And my mom was just not having it. She was just like, she can't see and she's 10 years old. You're gonna yell at this 10-year-old?
Right. And you're probably in some massive stadium where like it's a full walkway going down, right?
Oh,
So
it was in
like
Milwaukee at the amphitheater.
the worst thing that could happen is somebody's got to step to the other side of the thing and walk down or walk up. Like it's not like a safety hazard, but they're told that's like their fucking job for the night is to
Right.
harass
Couldn't
every
just
10
let
year
the 10-year-old get away with it.
old. That's that's crazy.
Now, I've heard on other podcasts that you play hockey.
I do. I actually have a game in, let's see how many days is it from now. In 5 days, we're in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I started that in 2020 when like everything was sort of shut down and shit. It was a concept of me and my buddy. I think we were watching hockey at the time or something, and I was like, dude, we should get some fucking rollerblades. And he's like, yeah, I'll get some rollerblades. And I was like, all right, let's go. We like went to the store and bought rollerblades. A week later, I bought gear and was like, all right, I'm gonna figure out a way to play hockey. I was like, if I do all the steps you do before being on a team, then I'll have to join the team somehow. And luckily, my wife was friends uh, with the captain of our team, Jesse. She grew up with him. Funny enough, like it was all like punk rock stuff that he grew up listening to, and he was in a band. They played Mest songs back in the day and shit too. So he was nice enough to let me join the team, and been playing on that team for like 4 years now. It's like my one fun hobby outside of music and
Yeah.
shit that I do one day
I,
a week and shit.
I've always loved hockey because my brother and I, we pretty much grew up on a lake. So I used to go play hockey on the lake with my brother all the time. And
Pond hockey.
lake hockey, pond hockey, I guess. But
Yeah.
like, he would always use me as his secret weapon because, they'd be down by with some other dudes playing on the lake and he'd just set me up near the goal and they wouldn't expect me to be like his secret weapon and he'd pass me the puck and I'd get it right in and they'd be like, "What the hell just happened?"
Did you play a lot of hockey growing up because of that?
I did not. My brother played hockey growing up, but he started later. He did it in high school.
Yeah.
So he
Yeah.
played it all through high school, but now he has 3 kids that are in hockey.
Yeah. So he's like pushing it on them. It's called grooming. Um, yeah, I started when I was like, I don't know, 11, same thing. Like we actually had like this brickyard that was the dump at one time right across from our house. And so there was like these big, things of water and shit. So we would started playing over there, just skating and shit, fucking around. And I really liked it. So my dad let me join hockey. And I played only for a couple of years in like my 12, 13 stage, and then hadn't played in years. So I was like, I don't know. I just want to pick it back up again. And I fucking love it. It's just like I know that I don't have that many years left of the body working in that type of manner.
Right.
So I'm trying to get it all in as much as I can. And it actually helps out. I have pretty bad back. So like since I've started playing hockey, like the first year was really fucking rough. But something about consistently doing it has like helped out so much with my fucking old
Yeah.
man back.
Keeps your back loose.
For sure. Yeah. So it's like, and my back doctor's like, keep doing it. If it's working, keep doing it. So,
Right.
it's fun.
Yeah. Do
Fun
you have
every
a
time.
favorite NHL team?
Blackhawks for sure. Obviously. I mean, I don't get to watch them that much living out here. And it's like, since we got Bedard last year, I was like, fuck, I'm going to watch so much hockey. And I think I watched one game because it was
Yeah.
like, I was just with having so much life happening, it's hard to like even remember like, okay, on this day I'm going to sit down for a fucking hour and a half and do this. And then like, even if you plan on it, other plans happen. So it's really hard to like even fucking watch, the Sundays football is easy for me because it's Sunday. I'm like, this is what I'm doing on Sunday. Every Sunday, that's it. Um, but yeah, definitely a fan of the Blackhawks. I'm in Chicago, so it is what
Yeah.
it is.
I don't think I was ever a fan of the Blackhawks. My brother was really big on the Detroit Red Wings, so he influenced me. And so I'm a Red Wings fan, but I'm also a Predators fan because Milwaukee has their AHL team that's the Admirals, which is affiliated. So,
Is that their minor league
yeah.
team? That's cool.
So I'm
So where
like,
were
oh,
you?
now I have 2 teams.
Yeah. So you're is it Detroit because you guys were close to it, or he just liked Detroit? Like, what
I
was
don't
the?
know. I don't know what his reasoning was. I think he just liked them. And he
Yeah.
just didn't want to like a Chicago team, probably.
Well, yeah. Was your family in the hockey at all, or but is he the first one to pick it up?
He was pretty much the one that was into the hockey, yeah.
They probably like kids like colors of jersey and shit, or like one player, and then
It
that
might have
sets them.
been something like that. I don't know if I've ever asked him why he likes that team or why he started liking them. I'll
Yeah,
have
it
to
sets them.
ask him that. But I'm a Red Wings fan only because my older brother, you know.
Right. Yeah, that's how it happens. If you ain't got a team, somebody around you makes you like the
And I'm
team.
sure you know who my favorite, football team is.
But what are you a Vikings fan? What are you?
I'm in Wisconsin.
Oh, you're a fucking Packers fan. Okay, that's understandable. I get it. I get it. I ain't hating it.
Chris,
I don't like Rodgers. I liked him for a while back then, even when it was like the best thing was to hate him. And then I was like, he's just good. I don't give a fuck. Like he's really good at what he does. Like it's cool to watch him play. And then like he just got weird and like
he
sucked
should
at
have
football
retired.
for sure. For sure. Like he's yeah. So I don't know. I'm just hearing how terrible he is to other players in his locker room. Like when those stories started coming out, that's when I'm like, ah, fuck this dude. So but
Yeah,
now he's
he
not
should have retired and now he's doing great.
yeah, he's killing it
Great
with the
on the
Jets.
Jets.
Yeah,
He's
yeah.
just doing great. They're thinking about benching him, I heard.
He won money. Really? No fucking way.
I heard on the news that they were thinking of benching him, but
I don't
I
know.
don't know. I don't know.
That'd be amazing.
Chris, your favorite football team is,
The Bills. Yeah, I know. My
I,
entire
I,
my entire
I
family's from Buffalo, so
yeah. So it's yeah, you guys are nuts. Like Bills fans are fucking ridiculous. But it's like, Chicago fans are pretty ridiculous too. I think Bills are definitely fucking crazier and a little bit weirder. But I'm a fan of Josh Allen and shit. Like I want to see the kid win something. He's been fucking one of the best players, I think, best quarterbacks ever. And like for him to not, have the shiny ring yet, a little bit of a bummer.
yeah, I'd like to see. Granted, he's not on either of the teams. Christian McCaffrey, he was with the Panthers and now San Francisco. I'd like to see him win something. He's a really talented back, and he deserves something. But
For sure. And fucking George Kittle too, who's I
yeah,
think that his personality for football is great. And he's a Bears fan. So hopefully he'll win it with San Francisco and then come over to the Bears.
you guys need some help.
No, hard fucking question to answer because you want to say yes, but like you can't have that much talent on a team and then have a record like that. And they did what they needed to do. I mean, somebody had to take the fall, right? So that's why they fired Eberflus to fucking. I knew it was gonna happen when they lost that game, dude, with a timeout on the clock. Like, I'm like, that's it. I told my old man, I'm like, that he's done, dude. Like, if not now, at the end of the year for sure. My dad's all, who would fill in with him and fill in for him? And I'm like, the offensive coordinator for sure. Next morning, my cousin, my friend, people from Chicago, all sending each other. Me and my brother actually sent different links at the exact same time. So we have a text between me, my brother, and my dad. Literally came in at the same time where we had like sort of both found out and sent it. It was like 10:17 in the morning, and my dad was still sleeping, but he woke up and I told him. He was like, "What the fuck?" And I'm like, "Told you it's gonna happen." So we'll see what happens. I think the coaching will be massive for the Bears. To be
Yeah.
honest, too much talent to not fucking, to not have a better record than they have.
so I'm gonna take a really wide pivot here, from one father to another. Do you have a favorite children's book?
Go to fuck to sleep.
That is a good
Um,
one.
uh, there's one that I read. It's probably over there. It's like a Christmas book. I think it might be just the fucking Grinch story, but I read it every year to my kids. Like we do it at least once. Um, but we make books. Like I've always had books given to me by like my son's mom, and so we have these like personalized sort of books that I tend to like because you can read them to your kids and it's like them and they see themselves in the thing. But as far as kids books go, like there's nothing that I mean, nothing that really is like, I only read one book in my entire life when I was a kid, and that was Charlotte's Web. So that's my favorite book. And my son just read it too. And like, it's sort of like inherited in me because it's the only book I ever read ever in my entire life.
Yeah.
I'll share a good children's book. So, when my younger son was much younger than he is now, we got, I don't know where the book came from. It was called The Goodnight Train. The illustrations in that book are fucking wild. like messed up. So if you get a chance to find that book, just take a look at the illustrations and all the weird shit going on. It's
The Good Night Train.
yeah, Goodnight Train.
Is it like fucked up weird, like mushrooms weird, like just
Yeah,
fucking
like someone was definitely on drugs while they illustrated it.
like,
There's no way. There's no other explanation for the illustrations.
right? And they're like kids will relate to this because kids are pretty much just on mushrooms all the time, anyways. When they're fucking
Right.
young, like the way their brains work and shit. I'll definitely check that out.
I didn't really have a favorite book growing up. I don't think I did books much. I think I loved like I Spy books or something.
Yeah, so that's why like I wasn't like I didn't read much when I didn't read at all when I was a fucking kid. I remember I was in the like gifted classes growing up, so this bullshit where they were like we had to do like a book report every fucking week, and I'm like, how? There's no way I'm gonna read a book every week. So I would learn how to skim a book and read the back of it and bullshit my way through a book report every week.
Yeah.
Just I was like, I'm not. There's no way. Like I was diagnosed with ADHD way later on in life. Looking back now, it all sort of made sense. Like as I'm talking to my doctor, and he's, "Ooh, what was your childhood like? What did you do in school? This and that." And I was just like telling him stories, and it was like my brain was sort of going, "Oh fuck, that's
Right.
what was going on the whole time." Like I just couldn't fucking. So reading a book was not not in my wheelhouse.
It's okay. It wasn't in mine either, so
Like I was a kid, I couldn't even play video games as a kid. Like there was just I can't sit still for that long. I'm just like I can't. I have to be up and moving and doing shit. That's just the way I am. Like I didn't play video games as a kid.
I definitely played some video games, but
Yeah,
yeah, no
my brain.
books.
I'm wondering if that's going to happen with my younger one. Like he'll play video games, but he'll constantly be moving and scratching himself like in the middle of playing. I'm fairly
Yeah,
confident he's got the I mean, both my wife and I also. So I mean, he's
yeah,
got it, right?
yeah.
So
It's in there. It's in there. It's
Probably
just whether.
probably got it.
Yeah.
I think we
Uh,
all have a little bit of it though.
for sure. That's the weird thing is like the different like it's such a like autism and ADHD and OCD and all that type of shit. Like where there's sort of just like it's such of a broad thing that it's like I understand why it is, but at the same time, it's just like when you think of a kid and you go like I remember like first hearing about autism, and I'm like, oh, that's the kids with the fucking headphones on, you know, and it's just like no, it's like the spectrum is just so fucking wide that it's hard to like to for when a kid's young and he hears that he has it, if he has that thought of it, to him be able to conceptualize and not be like, oh, that's what I, and it's like, no, like there's this fucking massive spectrum of it. Like there's different parts, different, you know, different things. Brains just work differently for everybody else. And it's like, I don't know, it's definitely, I think we all have something on some spectrum, on some level of like, you know, it's very rare that somebody gets lucky enough just to have the quiet brain that just functions the way it's supposed to.
Functions normally all the time.
Yeah.
What
Yeah,
kind of
for sure.
fun would that be though, right?
Yeah, I think my fucking wife might have that even. Because she's always in a nice way talking shit to me. She's like, I've never met somebody that has to do this, has to do that. And I'm like, it's just the way I work. It's who I am.
We all work differently.
Yeah, for sure.
So I gotta know, do you have a favorite dinosaur?
Um, I mean, if I had to have one, it would be the T Rex, I think, because I just how crazy and vicious started. You know, like they were like one of the fucking gnarly dinosaurs, but at the same time, they have like the tiniest little arms and not be able to do a lot. It sort of goes against what they are. You know, like it's like these tiny little fucking. So it's like a bully that like fucking has like tiny little arms or something.
Yeah.
But why is it? Do you love dinosaurs? What's your? Is it?
No,
What do
we
you?
ask every guest now what their favorite dinosaur is.
I don't know. Maybe it was like your ADHD
No,
question.
we started this a while ago after we interviewed a certain band and we asked them this question and he got really excited about it and he really loves dinosaurs. So we were like, let's just ask all our guests what their
You were
favorite
hoping
dinosaur is.
that's a problem. You hit a home run with that question by accident. You're like, let's ride this out for the next couple of years and see what
And
happens.
we get some crazy answers still, but I mean, most of the time it's your typical dinosaurs, like Land Before Time dinosaurs and stuff.
What's the dinosaur that's in fucking Jurassic Park that's not real?
the Indominus,
Is that what it is? And like, yeah,
Jurassic World, yeah, the Indominus, and then My whole family's dinosaur people. The Indominus, and then in the second one, it's the Indoraptor, and
Well, there's
then
those, isn't there? There's one that like that we were sort of always thought that was real, and it's not.
oh,
It's
the
not.
Brontosaurus.
Yeah,
But
that's what it is.
apparently, they've come back now again saying, no, 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 we were wrong. It is real.
They got one. Okay. See,
Whatever.
that's
So who
yeah.
really knows?
Right. Right.
Who really knows? It may or may not be real.
Yeah. Religious people probably love that shit. They're like, see, it's not real.
I'm gonna come back full circle on this interview because we started off talking about the Christmas decorations. I'm curious, what is your favorite Christmas song?
Oh fuck, dude, I don't even want to say it because it's like fucking the one that everybody hates. But when she crawls out of the ocean on November 1st, I mean, it's such a good fucking Christmas song, you know. And it's
It
like,
is.
and there's so many classics with Christmas songs that everybody knows, like Jingle Bell Rock, and you know, it's all those songs are like. I think it's cool that there was a newer esque songs. I love all the 50s and 60s old school
Mhm.
Christmas stuff, like those types of songs, Bing Crosby and shit like that. So to have a song be that massive from sort of like our generation, it'll probably carry on the same way that like that was. I think that's sort of cool. I think that fucking Gwen Stefani, and who's her husband's name? Blake Shelton, is that
Mhm.
his name? That song that they wrote together, I think, is a really fucking good newer song that I think will be a generational song. But maybe like you know, it's probably the fucking grandma got run over by a reindeer. Remember that one? When
Yep.
I remember when that song came out. I was maybe 9, 10 years old, I think, when that came out. And my alarm clock would go off every morning. And it just happened to be at the right time. And it was like that song was on the radio. And I remember just hearing it and being like, that's the craziest fucking Christmas song ever. It's like they're literally talking about grandma getting murdered. So it was like this funny fucking Christmas song. And it's like, and honestly, like, it's weird. Like we live out here where there's the coast 103.5. They start playing Christmas songs 24/7, like pretty much beginning of November. Um, so I always just keep that station on until Christmas is over with. But I don't know why they don't play that song. You know, my friend's a DJ there. He does the morning show. I'm actually going to write him now and ask him why they don't include that.
I
Like
wonder
it's
if it
too.
was a Midwest thing.
You know about the song, right?
Yes.
Obviously. Yeah. I mean, wasn't it Willie Nelson that fucking was it Willie Nelson that sang that song?
I don't know. Chris, are you Googling?
No, I'm not
Ah,
Googling.
Chris.
Let me.
Sorry to disappoint you. I don't even have the browser up this time.
I'm gonna look this up.
Chris. Yeah, because I'm
Um,
like, maybe it was a Midwest thing.
let's see. Let's see. Fucking. Oh, there's a fucking movie with it too. I didn't know that.
Uh-oh. New
Fuck.
Christmas movie.
It's late right now, but I'll text my friend that works at the coast and see why they don't play it. Let's see if I can get a live update. It's like one of the, like the coast is like fucking Live Nation or whatever. Like, what's the fucking big music station shit? That everybody the monopoly of.
Oh, like the iHeartRadio?
Yeah, it's iHeartRadio. Let's see. Hold on. Does the song "Grandma Got Ran Over by a Reindeer" never get played on coast? See if I can get this.
It looks like the original is from, is it like,
Is it really old and then somebody redid it?
it might be.
Because I think Willie Nelson redid it, but maybe I was just
All I
think
find is this Elmo and Patsy.
the fuck. That's you're talking like. Are you talking like Elmo's and Elmo?
Just Elmo and Patsy. Grandma got run over by a reindeer. Song by Elmo and Patsy.
And that is the people that supposedly sing it.
I guess I just looked up original 1979 version. So someone had to redo it
Let's see
for
if
us to have heard it. There's no way it's the same version.
Willie Nelson's version of "Grandma Got Ran Over by a Reindeer" is available on YouTube and Spotify. See, so Willie Nelson is probably did the one that I fucking heard growing up.
Probably. Probably the same one I did.
Let's see what year. Nope, that fucks up. 1979.
It seems very
Uh,
Midwest though.
ZZ Willie Nelson, "Grandma Got Ran Over by a Reindeer." Yeah, I mean, I just remember being on all the time, and I'm like, that's such a fucking good song. But now I'm gonna have to go find out if that was the one I was listening.
Right?
Yeah, he
Now
did.
you got to figure it out.
Willie Nelson did do it. It shows it right here. So that was when I was listening to. So we'll go with
Pro-
that song.
That's probably the one I remember.
Yeah. We'll wait to see if what
Now,
if I can get
do you have a Christmas song that you dislike?
you know what? There is. So which I like the movies, sort of, because my kids, we watched them the other night, and we try to do like Christmas movie literally every night. But they wanted to watch the like Peanut Snoopy shit. But there's that that fucking song. And when it comes on the radio, it's so fucking long and it's the same thing over and over again. And there's like no words at all. And it's just the same thing. And I'm like, it is the one song that I'm like, oh, fuck. Like I used to, because I've been doing this for like, I don't know, 12 years now, where when the coast starts playing music, I would turn on the station and nobody touches my radio until fucking the season's over with. And that was the one song though, that if it came on, I was like, okay, I'm gonna change the station for a couple minutes because it's fucking, I don't know, it's just long and boring.
Yeah.
And this thing, that's the one song. Why, do you have one that you don't like?
The Muppet Christmas Carol, but I don't know if it's because working in retail, hearing it years and years over and over again, it just killed me. I just can't stand Miss Piggy's part.
I have this one. I don't know if I fucking even know that one.
The Muppet Christmas Carol?
I mean, I'd have to hear it. Like, I mean, we just
You've
watched
probably heard it. You've probably heard it. I just can't stand Miss Piggy's part.
Why
She's
is that?
annoying. She's just annoying.
You don't like her voice? Is that what it is?
I don't like Miss Piggy's voice, no.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Now I'm gonna fucking.
Plus,
I'm
I
gonna
mean,
listen.
I guess if you had to pick another one, it's like the hippopotamus for Christmas kind of gets annoying after a while.
On a hippopotamus for Christmas.
Yep,
That one.
that one.
I don't know. I don't think it's that bad.
I
There's the
mean,
rapey one. The rapey
I
one's good.
did hear it for years. I worked at Kmart for 10 years, so it's like I heard it every year, all
What's
the
the
time.
the one that almost got canceled a couple years ago? And they're like, ah, it's like rapish. Like the guy was being creepy. What's the where they sing back
Yeah.
and forth?
Uh,
And everybody all of a sudden started
maybe
freaking
it's
out.
cold outside.
That one,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Everybody starts freaking out about this Christmas song that's been around for years. Now it's just like, you can't play this. It's like, what the fuck are you? I don't know.
They like to try to get rid of the classics.
Just random shit though. Just like out of nowhere, like, oh, okay, like the world's gonna be safer because of this one sort of creepy fucking song. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I never thought about it that way. I don't think anybody did until all of a sudden some dude that thought about it that way
Right.
was like, think about it this way. And it's like, well, why are you thinking about it that way, you fucking weirdo? That's on you, not anybody else.
Jess, what are your favorites?
I don't know. I always like Rock Around the Christmas Tree.
Yeah. I definitely like that one for sure.
And
I'm a huge,
the one that's like mom and dad can hardly wait for school to start again. It's beginning to
you
look a
know,
lot like Christmas. That one. I always like
funny
that
is, like,
one.
as you become a parent and like hearing that line, you're like, oh, I fucking get it. I get it now.
Yeah.
Like,
I think that's why I love that song as a kid, because I always thought it was like, ha ha ha, mom and dad have to deal with me.
um, so I got the answer back. He said, that's so funny. He said, I have no idea. All of our holiday music is scheduled by someone in DC. We have some substitutions when we want, but that's not a song anyone ever requests until now.
Well, it's been requested. Now you have to see if they play it.
That's funny. I'm gonna tell him what's going on here.
You'll
See
have
if I
to
can-
let us know if they end up playing it. I'd be curious.
All right, I'm gonna tell him that this is our request though. See if I can get it played.
Yes.
That'd be amazing if we actually pull it off.
Be like, JAMX podcast and Tony from Mest request this song.
Nobody's ever requested. It's the forgotten. It's the forgotten gem.
It is a forgotten gem because he's never even heard of it.
Yeah.
Well, now he's going to listen to it and he's going to probably love it and now he'll want to play it.
Oh, Ryan knows the song.
Oh, okay.
He
I was
just
going to
saying
say,
that-
I hope he knows the song, but
yeah, he was just saying. Well, he's from Chicago too originally.
oh,
so
okay. That's why I
like-
said it's got to be a Midwest thing.
Yeah, I feel like I just feel like I feel like it was a hit on the radio out of nowhere back in the late '80s, early '90s is when it was. But then it didn't become like a classic like that. You know, you can't.
You can
really-
always do a test. You can like ask people you know that have lived in California
right.
all the
No, for
time and see if they know it.
We do this shit all the time. Me and my wife talk about it. Like before there was the internet, like how did you know about like urban tales and like random different things like that? Like, well, I lived in Chicago, so how did you hear about this out here? Because it wasn't like the internet spreading shit. And that's another one. Like, so when somebody pulls somebody's pants down, what do you guys call it?
Dancing.
Pantsing.
See, we call it depantsing. And I've had this argument with people. I'm like, it's 100% depantsing. Right? Like you don't fog your windows, you defog your windows, right? You're not like If I were to pants you, that's me fucking
Giving you pants,
giving you
pulling your
pants.
pants up.
I'm de-pantsing you. It makes perfect sense. But there's only like a group of people that I know that actually say de-pant, and it depends on where you're from in the country of like what. So it's like a big debate we've had going on for a
Well, I
while
mean,
now.
that's like the debate, bubbler in Wisconsin is, a drinking fountain.
The fuck? I've never even heard of any of that. What is
It's a bubbler. A drinking fountain to us Wisconsinites is called a
you guys call
bubbler.
it? Bubbler?
A bubbler, yes.
Wow. I've never
You've never heard that, and you were not even
understand
that far away from us when you were
yeah,
younger.
shows the difference in the type of people you guys call water fountains bubblers. Like what was the
It's not a
where did
water
that
fountain. I don't know. Do you drink out of a water fountain when you go into the
yeah,
park and just there's a
the water
fountain in the park?
yeah, when you see a water fountain, it does this, right?
No, when you're in a park and it's just a fountain, that's a water fountain. You're gonna drink water out of there?
I mean, I'll give you that sort of argument there, but it's a
Hey,
fountain
I did
of water.
find out from a band that I interviewed. Well, we technically interviewed, but Chris couldn't be there. From Sydney, Australia. They call it a bubbler in Sydney.
See, that's some shit that I would believe. Like that makes sense. Like I get it, like they
I
definitely
was
have different.
shocked. I was like, what?
Yeah. I mean, it's like fucking, what's is it in England? If somebody calls you a cunt, it's like the nicest thing you could
Well, that's
be called.
Australia.
Australia, yeah, in Australia, yeah.
Yeah.
They're like the same thing. But yeah, like, and it's like you're out and you have to like learn it real fast because
Right.
somebody's like cunt and you're like, dude, that's a gnarly,
The funny
that's a
thing is
gnarly,
I had a
gnarly.
conversation with this band from Australia about that word.
Yeah,
And it was like some people in Australia do find it still derogatory, but majority of people it's endearing,
right. And that's like polar opposite over here.
right? Nope. It's definitely derogatory here.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's like the worst of the like. You ever really want to piss off a female or fucking your wife? There's
Yeah,
the worst is coming if you drop that fucking if you drop that word.
it's true.
It does remind me of a video that I saw of a news. I love like the newscasting outtakes. There's a newscaster on the corner, and they're overseas somewhere, and someone's on a bike, and as he's riding by past the news reporter on his bike, he's like, "Happy Christmas, you fat cunt."
Good stuff.
Uh,
I
this
love that.
conversation's taken a turn for,
Yeah, sorry, I don't know. I might have
something.
got it by accident. Sorry.
But but yep. I mean, that's all we got. Do you have anything else you'd want to add on to the end of this interview?
Let's see. Well, for people that don't know, we put out a new record in June. There's two videos that are released from it. We will be announcing a tour in the States here very shortly. We were supposed to announce it before Thanksgiving, but obviously it's been pushed back after that. We are heading to Japan in March. We're going to Canada in July. We do have more new music in the works coming out. So, go check out the songs and share them to your friends. The reposts do a lot for bands like us. So, but just keep coming to shows.
Yeah. Keep supporting the bands,
Keep
especially the independent ones.
right. Keep supporting Mariah Carey in the month of December. Request that song. She only makes $1 million a year on that song.
Probably. Maybe more, you never know.
Just in December alone, she makes that much money.
That's why she pushes so hard for that song to be played.
Pushes herself out of the ocean. That fucking swims away in January. I think I heard my daughter yelling my name.
Oh, she wants you. She wants dad.
Dad. Can you hear it?
Yeah.
I wonder where the fuck I am.
She needs you.
She's been watching The Grinch over and over again, so I might have like ended. And so
Uh-oh.
she started over. That's probably what's happening.
All right. Well, thanks again for coming on. It's been a
Sorry
pleasure.
it's been, it's a madhouse.
It's all good. We and Chris know how life happens.
Yeah.
It happens
Well, I
sometimes.
appreciate it. And
But I'm glad we could make it work out and get you on.
yeah, I was even rushing home for this one. I'm like, oh fuck. I was like walking around in my house how my brain works. We just picked up my son from an after school thing, and I'm like setting my daughter up with food and shit. And she's like, dude, go. What are you doing? And I'm like, what? She's like, you have the fucking podcast. I'm like, oh fuck. Like that's how, quickly time goes by. So, but I appreciate your patience. Thank you for having me on. And you guys have some good holidays, and I'll let you know if we get that song on the radio.
Yeah, let us know. And you have a great holiday as well.
All right, guys. Good talking to you.
You too.
Thanks.
Bye.